In the spring of 2020, I gave up everything to escape domestic violence. I survived with a single burner hot plate and food kept frozen in an insulated tote bag until I was able to find safe housing. I had had enough. I deleted everything and everyone that triggered me, starting with social media. My spirit could no longer bear the burden of the unhealed projecting their hurt unto me. I could no longer let guilt and cultural norms keep me trapped. I realized that in order to save other women in my situation, I had to be the one to take that first leap of faith to get out. For years and years, I prayed for a breakthrough, and it was granted in my heart. But the time had come to break these generational curses in the physical realm as well. During my fight for survival, I pondered upon two things. The first is, why is it that an 8-year-old getting pregnant is seen as taboo, yet an 8-year-old eldest daughter taking on parental responsibility is completely normalized? Well, there's a word for this. It's called adultification. The Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequality defines adultification as the robbing of Black children of the very essence of what makes childhood distinct from all other developmental periods. This was the first time that I was told that I didn't matter. And when agency is taken away from young girls, it reflects in her self-esteem, future relationships, and how she's treated at work and at school. Rutledge research on gender and society defines agency as the thoughts and actions taken by people to express their individual power. I realized that all these years, my power had been hidden from me. Another thing I pondered during my time in isolation is, why is it that those with physical ailments are given accommodation, yet those of us who struggle with our mental health and reproductive health are rarely given grace? Well, there's also a word for this. It's called ableism. The Harvard Educational Review defines ableism as a discrimination and prejudice against differently abled people while favoring those who present typically. I was expected to just suppress my struggles and just succeed like everyone else. Now, I could go on and on about my trauma, but instead, I want to share with you how I started my healing journey. It began when I stopped accepting life without boundaries and started protecting the little girl inside me who couldn't speak up. I started to think back at the moments I last remembered being happy, and those moments started looking right back at me. Whether you believe in a higher power or not, the creator of the universe will send you signs that your inner child is healing. And I distinctly remember 3. The first was while driving down the highway, I looked back in my rearview mirror and saw a Chariots for Hires bus I hadn't seen since my Sweet 16. Another sign was the restaurant I hosted at this past summer used to be the location of a macaroni grill my family would gather at when my father was able to travel. And to me, the third and most obvious sign was my favorite childhood band, Big Time Rush, randomly announcing a 2-day comeback tour. Thankfully, I wasn't the only concert goer over the age of 12. My moment of truth came when I had to decide whether to let my situation be the end of my story or let it become a powerful testimony. As much as I enjoyed my time in isolation, it was time to face the world again. After all, I had degrees to finish, a new career to flourish in, and little eyes at home watching every move that I make. In 2018, I created the Amini philosophy that helped me beat a 2-year battle with depression. So why did it seem that life had become worse? Wasn't my renewed lust for life supposed to solve everything once and for all? Well, the time had come for me to learn 2 great lessons. The first is this journey called life is not supposed to be linear. And the other lesson is your purpose will always triumph over your plans. Removing myself from the things that no longer serve me gave me the grace that everyone deserves, especially Black women, to put myself first. And after accepting that I wasn't meant to live an average, meaningless life, I began to search for ways to sustain my newfound freedom. This stability revealed itself through 3 pillars that keep redefining happiness. And these pillars are service, mentorship, and leadership. So the first pillar, service. What do I mean by that? Well, you have to be of service to yourself first, before you can be of service to others. I became of service to myself by becoming my own. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew they were out there. And after 6 years of actively waiting in faith, I finally found the right treatments so that my outward behavior could match the inner work that I was doing. So please, don't give up. Continue to search until you find the people who see and believe you. You're not crazy. You're not overdramatic. Your pain is valid. Service allowed me to see that I wasn't alone in my struggle. The next pillar is mentorship. Mentorship allows me to not only find those who also share my struggle, but still went on to do amazing things despite their struggle. My very first mentors were my mother and father, and they taught me the meaning of being resilient. And when life circumstances left my siblings and I in the care of complete strangers, I held on to their words of wisdom. Mentorship allows me to see past the turmoil of my present situation and keep hope for a better future. And it doesn't have to be a formal process. Something as simple as a follow on social media can begin to mold you into that person you wish to become. The third pillar is leadership. Leadership allows me back and be a beacon of light to those still stuck in the clutches of hopelessness. And as you continue to navigate this non-linear journey called life, I encourage you to please find your escape from societal. Mine is pageantry, and I became a leader through it. There's no such thing as the voiceless, only those whose voices go unheard. Pageantry gives me the platform to amplify those voices and speak out against the violence that's become so normalized. I didn't care that I was mid-size, unambiguous, with a recently shaved head. I was Miss Black DC, and my voice was going to be heard. Now I'd like you to take a moment to close your eyes. Think of when you were at your darkest. Now I want you to say to yourself, thank you. I want you to thank your past self, because that's who fought to get you to where you are today. That so-called hot mess version of you believed that better days were ahead. So instead of hiding in shame, honor yourself, all parts of you. Give yourself the grace that nobody gave you. And if you're waiting for permission, to stop punishing yourself and start redefining your happiness using service, mentorship, and leadership to transition from surviving to thriving. I give you permission. Thank you.